The car that saved supercars was a Honda? The Honda NSX made an incredible impact on the supercar market. The NSX made this impact through the staleness of the supercar market in the 1980s, the release and specs of the car, and how competitors responded to it. The NSX isn't my favorite car of all time, but I'm extremely grateful for the impact it's had. So I've done extensive research to try and properly praise the car. Car companies in the 1980s had gotten extremely lazy, specifically Ferrari and Lamborghini. Take the Ferrari 328, for example. The car had a bland and uncomfortable interior. The car had great speed, posting 266 horsepower, according to UltimateSpecs.com, but it came with no power steering, making the car extremely hard to handle. The gears were clunky, meaning it was extremely hard to shift, making the car also feel terrible to drive. The Lamborghini Countach had similar issues, but it had some issues of its own. The car was also incredibly fast, but it couldn't turn. It felt more like a tractor than a race car. The car looked beautiful, but the windows were tiny and it was terrible to see out, making lane changes near impossible. The car was extremely unreliable, breaking down way too much to be driven daily. Now, this takes us to the car company Honda. They had been winning a bunch of races in Formula 2, and they wanted to make a car to symbolize this. But they wanted to make sure it was still a Honda. This meant that the car needed to be safe, reliable, and easy to drive. Honda engineers took significant time testing the safety of their new car, doing many crash tests. They also made sure the car was just as easy to drive as their Civics in cities. So it had great fluid shifting. The engine put into the NSX made the car extremely reliable to the point where the car could be driven daily with no problem. The car was also only $60,000 brand new, which was considerably cheaper than anything Lamborghini or Ferrari was putting out on the market. The NSX wouldn't be remembered though if it didn't deliver in the performance department. So Honda had to go all out. The NSX was the first car made with an all aluminum chassis, and what this did was make the car extremely light. This is according to writer C.Y. Fong for Wapcar. So a light car with a great engine, which was a dual cam 3.0 V6, making 270 horsepower. Which, if you don't know what that means, it means the car was very fast, faster than the Ferrari 328. And this is according to incarpedia.com. The engine also included Honda's new VTEC system. Now, VTEC works similarly to a turbo, which controls how much air gets into the engine. More air means more power, means more speed. And that's pretty much all VTEC does. And this is according to Silvestro at roadandtrack.com. Now, this car shocked Ferrari and Lamborghini as it kept up with them in the performance department, but it also came with modern comforts. This lit a fire in the supercar market and led to many great cars coming in the future. The NSX inspired the creation of a whole new class of car. Gordon Murray, the creator of the McLaren F1, cites the NSX as direct inspiration. Now, the McLaren F1 is what some consider to be the best car of all time, and so it couldn't be put into the supercar class, as they came up with a new word, hypercar, and that is where it fit in. Now, Ferrari and Lamborghini wouldn't just sit back at the release of the NSX either. The Ferrari 355 and 360 would release without the complaints of unreliability and difficulty to drive. And they also set a new precedent on speed. The Lamborghini Diablo would define how supercars looked for the rest of the decade. But it could also turn now. Now, the NSX didn't do any of this. The NSX remained stagnant after its first generation and kind of fell off into oblivion. It's just kind of an average car you might see a mid level CEO drive now. But that original splash of a release left an unforgettable mark on the supercar market. We looked over at the staleness of the supercar market in the 80s, the release and specs of the NSX, and how it impacted and put a fire under its competitors. The NSX may seem like a pretty boring car now if you're a car guy, but that's because we're looking through the lens of every single car it's made possible.